Hope you guys are having a great day. Today is July 24th or 25th, depending on what day you guys see this video. And in today's video, we're going to be doing an election prediction where the Democratic nominee would have been Elizabeth Warren facing off against President Donald Trump. And as you guys can probably tell, I got a new mic, or more borrowed a new mic, and I hope it sounds good. From previous recordings and from testing, it sounds pretty good. So, just with that being said, we're going to be filling out the safe states for each candidate. And again, state of, or not the state, Elizabeth Warren is pretty close to what Bernie Sanders is, just with a few different changes. Again, they're both progressives. They're both from the progressive wing of the party. Um, they're both pretty likable by their party base. Now, what changes is the idea of whether they're popular with independent voters, whether they're popular with more moderate voters, and more toss-up voters that usually help elect the next president of the United States. So now, with that being said, this is our current presidential map: 187 electoral votes for Elizabeth Warren to President Trump's 126. And just going off of the bat, states like Nevada, Colorado, with a growing Latino population, with a growing minority population, and with growing urban areas. Again, Nevada having Las Vegas and Reno County, Colorado having Denver, and Arapahoe County, where a lot of the elections are won and is growing more and more Democratic. Those two states will go into Warren's column just because of, again, the amount of support that Democrats are getting in those states. And another state that most people would consider lean Democrat is Virginia with its 13 electoral votes. And again, this is another state that's growing more and more Democratic per election. Although the rest of the state, excluding the Washington suburbs and the southeastern part of the state, aren't as Democratic as those two parts. The Washington suburbs and that southeastern part of the state are rapidly growing Democratic. So with that being said, that raises our total to 207 to 215. And now going on the side of the president, the state of Georgia is 16 electoral votes, and I believe he will win that just because of the amount of rural voters in that state, just because of how that state has a really good Republican DNA. And although it is trending more and more Democratic with the raise of African American voters, with the raise of more minority voters and more of the youth vote, which is something I feel she will do very well with. I feel like Georgia is not going to be won by a Democrat, whether it be Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, as of now. Although the polls do tell a different story in that it is close. Personally, just as of now, again, it could change. The election's 4 months, 5 months away. I see Georgia going red. So in this prediction, Georgia will go red. Now moving on to the state of Texas, another state that most people before this election considered to be a solid, if not just leaning state for the Republicans. In this election, I believe that Elizabeth Warren won't do as well as Joe Biden is, or as well as Bernie Sanders would have done in polling. So again, in this election currently, where Joe Biden is facing Donald Trump, some polls actually show Joe Biden ahead in the polls ahead of Donald Trump in the state of Texas. So in this prediction, I just believe that Elizabeth Warren wouldn't really be able to capitalize on that the opportunity she has. I feel like the president is going to do a good job in this scenario, defending the state of Texas and defending a lot of states that he won in 2016, and he will get those 38 electoral votes. Now, moving on to the state of New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a weird state just because of the amount of independents in that state. They consist of a plurality in that state, and it neighbors Elizabeth Warren's home state of Massachusetts. So, with that being said, again, the president did lose the state only by 0.1% in 2016, but again, his approval rate in that state is pretty bad. His Elizabeth Warren's approval rate again in that state is also pretty good. And again, this is her region. This is her type of people. She appeals more to these people, more elderly people, senior citizens, and a growing amount of youth vote in the state. So, with that being said, the toss-up state of New Hampshire will go to Elizabeth Warren. Now, the state of Maine. I believe, again, the state of Maine is lean Democratic, although that second congressional district is always what's up for question. For now, I'm going to be giving both the first congressional district and the state of Maine to Elizabeth Warren. That second congressional district is still up for grabs, and personally, I feel like the president would be able to win that state, just or not that state, but that congressional district, just because of the amount of senior citizens in that state and the way he can appeal to them, unlike in New Hampshire, in the state of Maine. I just feel like this congressional district is more right leaning. Again, the country is a centrist right country, and this area shows really well what the Midwest also looks like, where a lot of people truly take person over party, where they truly look at their candidates individually and don't really just vote off of party. As we saw, 2016, the president did carry this. So in this scenario, I do believe he would also carry it. So one electoral vote into the president's column. Now moving on to the state of North Carolina. Um, in current polls, Joe Biden is leading, but in hypothetical polls, Elizabeth Warren was either leading or tied. Well, hypothetical polls, I assume, were all over the place. Some of them winning, some of them tied, some of them with Trump winning. But personally, I don't believe that a lot of the opportunities that are coming with Joe Biden would appear for a candidate like Elizabeth Warren, a candidate like Bernie Sanders, just because of how progressive they are and how it'll be more difficult for them to appeal to more centrist leaning, more moderate voters, especially in the Midwest. So, with that being said, I do believe that North Carolina would go the president's way and its 15 electoral votes would go to the president. Now, talking about that Midwest state, the state of Iowa, which voted heavily for the president, surprisingly, for a toss-up state, 9 points. Again, after Obama won it in 2004, in 2008, in 2012. And I think it's gonna happen again, whether it be by the same margin or a smaller. I feel like the president would be able to carry that state again, along with the state of Ohio, 18 electoral votes. Although it is a toss-up state, it did vote for the president pretty convincingly, around 6 to 9 points. And for being a toss-up state, that's a big margin. You know, toss-up states usually at most are won by 5 points when it's a landslide year, let alone 6, 7, 8, 9 points. So the president knows what he's doing, and it will definitely be closer than 6, 7, or 9 points, 6, 7, 8, or 9. But it will be won by the president in my opinion. So that puts him up to 220 electoral votes. And again, all the states that are remaining besides Minnesota are states that the president won. And we'll go to Minnesota again. This state is the home state of Amy Klobuchar, who's a candidate that did run for president. And I feel that with her help and with the way that the landscape of Minnesota currently is, with a couple of urban areas, suburban areas, and lots of women, I feel like this state, despite it trending more and more Republican, I feel like this election would stay with Elizabeth Warren. And so we have 5 states left, all voted for the president. And just getting off the one that makes the most sense, Arizona, 11 electoral votes. Although in my previous video, I did give the state to Bernie Sanders. I said it because it was the appeal it would have to minority voters and to youth voters. In this state, I feel that Elizabeth Warren wouldn't be able to do as well with more minority voters, and whether she does it or doesn't do good with them, I feel like she wouldn't be able to get that same attraction, that same urge to go out to vote that Bernie Sanders would. In my opinion, I feel like she doesn't bring the same energy, although she does have more benefits in other areas that do cover up for that. I feel like it would most likely hurt her in this state. So with that being said, 11 electoral votes I think would go to the president, putting him at 231. Now his home state of Florida, 29 electoral votes. Just on personal opinion, just because of how well he does in the Panhandle, how well he did in the I-4 corridor in 2016. And again, I'm not saying that this election is going to be anything like 2016. It's probably not going to be anything like 2016. I just don't see Elizabeth Warren doing well in more suburban areas like Tampa, Tallahassee, which are more northern than the I-4 corridor. But I feel like she just wouldn't do well in that area. She wouldn't be able to appeal to more moderate voters, more centrist leaning voters. So, my opinion, I think his home state of Florida would go to the president. 29 electoral votes. So, moving on to the Midwest, which is what the old Democratic blue wall was, and basically where the election is going to be won in most scenarios, and probably also this election. So moving on, so we'll start off with the state of Michigan, 16 electoral votes. State has a huge African American population, has the city of Detroit, and a lot of blue collar workers, a lot of lunch bucket workers, and I feel like despite her being a more progressive leaning candidate, I feel like she would um, be able to turn some of those um, blue collar workers, those manufacturing workers, back towards Elizabeth Warren, back to back to her instead of the president. Excuse me. Just for this election. So for hypothetical reasons, we're going to be giving for the state of Michigan to Elizabeth Warren. Two states remaining: states of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and these two states were the states, along with Michigan, states that most closely voted for the president and gave him his win. And as I said earlier, I don't feel that Elizabeth Warren will do good with more moderate voters in this Rust Belt, pro gun Democrats, pro life Democrats, and Democrats that are more center right leaning than the average Democrat. So this will definitely hurt her in the state of Pennsylvania. It has a lot of so-called Reagan Democrats, pro life Democrats, pro gun Democrats, and a lot of stances that Republicans sometimes take. So with that being said, I do believe the state of Pennsylvania would go to the president, putting him over the 270 electoral votes needed to be reelected president of the United States, along with the state of Wisconsin. This state also has a lot of um, white vote, as every state does, but more than average, I believe. Also has a lot of rural area that the president will be able to fire up his base with, fire up and get those people out to vote as he did in 2016 and in the 2018 midterms. Um, so yeah. With that being said, this is our final election map: 290 electoral votes for the president, 248 for Elizabeth Warren. And so yeah, if you guys disagree, just let me know in the comments. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know also. Hope you guys consider leaving a like, subscribing, sharing. And just to let you guys know, I probably will be posting a election night between Joe Biden and Donald Trump soon, whether it be before or after this video. So you guys might have already seen this, and if not, it'll come in the coming days. But yeah, so 290 electoral votes for the president, 248 for Elizabeth Warren. I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.